Hello and welcome to the video. This video is for my group build cars of our past. And this will be kind of my first official update video. We had the entry video, but now we're getting into some assembly and the building process. This one's going to be in a couple parts. The first part will kind of go over the changes that need to be made to create my replica. And then the second part we'll start getting into those changes and the progress with those. But for those that don't know, this is Revell's 64 Impala Super Sport kit that I'm using to create my replica of my first car, which was a 64 Impala two-door hardtop. It's basically a trim change, really. You can note that trim that runs around the body line, and then the Keystone Classics, and some other things that we'll need to address to make it into mine. But again, this might get a little rambly, kind of going over all of these changes as we go, but I want to cover and capture everything that I can with this build. So we'll clear the background and then start showing off the different pieces and discussing what's going on. Again, we'll start off with the body. We'll have to wipe this Super Sport trim off the side here and then make way for that trim that runs around that body line. I do have some really small evergreen styrene that I think is going to work out for that. Then back here we got the SS badge that needs to go, and we'll probably wipe off the letters with that. My car did have the letters, but it had the galloping Impala back there, and then I think we'll just replace that with a photo etch. And then up here on the front fender we have the V with flags, but my car was only a 283 car, so it just got the V for the V8. I believe that's how the trim worked. The V was just the base V8. The 327 got flags, and then the 409 got the cubic inch call out above it. I'm pretty sure that's how that worked out, but either way, we'll clean up the body lines here, and that'll be ready to go for the body. The paint, I was kind of worried about this, but with a recent build, that 41 Plymouth, I think I ended up with finding my paint that I need. This car, I don't have any great pictures of the paint, but it was a dark brown, and then it had some gold metallic in it. You can kind of see some of that gold flash kind of coming through there. But that's kind of what the root beer brown is. It's a brown with a gold flake. And I did notice with that 41 Plymouth that you do get this, I think it's the transparent red that's usually in these browns that's kind of flashing through as a burgundy color. And that's what that Plymouth would do as well. So I'm really excited about that, to not have to track down any colors for this. I was a little worried about it because that is not the original paint on this car. We'll get into a little story here. Two brothers owned 64 Impala two-door hardtops in the town. This is one of them, of course. It was originally a gold color. They ended up painting both cars the same color at the time. Again, both 64 two-door hardtops. Mine was a 283 powerglide, and I believe the other one was a 327 three-speed car. The other car was driven by another high schooler at the same time I was driving mine in high school in another town roughly 30 miles away. That one was a little rougher than mine, running on steelies and drag and tail, but it was cool to see both of them on the road in the same town. But again, I'm glad I got a color, because this is kind of a custom mixed color for them. Moving on from the body, we'll get into frame. We got the frame mocked up. I just glued in the suspension with some Mod Podge, just so I can check ride height and all that. That's going to be kind of important with the car. I did have like the biggest tires and wheels I could fit under it, or not wheels, they were just 15 inches, but as you can tell, the car was not a lowrider. It did sit up quite a ways, so I need to make sure I can replicate that ride height. And then we'll get into the wheels. I do have a set of Keystone Classics here. These are kind of the biggest tires I have, but they do, at least initially, look a little small for my car. There's not a whole lot of options out there for Keystones. And tires, I did find from Texas 3D Customs. They do print them in 1/24 scale, so they'd end up being like a 15.5 inch wheel, but the tires measured out a fair bit bigger, and I think would be a better fit, but we'll cross that bridge once we get a little farther in mock-up and see if I need to make those changes. That's about the only other option I have for wheels, so it's one or the other there. Then we'll jump into the engine. Pretty surprising from a Super Sport kit to get a small block and automatic transmission, but for my case that is absolutely perfect because that's what I was running. Again, we had the 283 up front, backed up by a powerglide. So there's a pretty nice little powerglide in this kit, so I'm happy to see that. The only thing that we need to hunt down is the intake and carb. I had an aluminum Y-end intake and Carter AFB carb on my car. Intake's not such a big deal. The carburetor, I haven't been able to find anybody in the 3D world other than VCG Resins, but their carb comes in a kind of a little bundle package, so I don't know if I have to buy the whole bundle or if I can track somebody else that's 3D printing that carburetor down. Fireball Model Works does do some older, I think Mopar style AFB carbs that might fit the bill, but we'll dig into those a little bit further later on. Next up we will talk about, I guess we got the chrome in here. This is how I dechrome my stuff. Hose them down with yellow Easy Off. This is I think it's just frosting container. I just hose them down. They've been in there just a couple of hours now. Just loosely put the lid on. I do mark how many parts I put in there. You start putting some small parts in there, they can cling to a glove and end up lost down the drain or something. So I always make sure, mark that down, alcohol it off after you found everything. But that is my process for chrome. Moving on into the floor pan. Underneath we do have just a little bit of script we need to clean up there. And then we've got some pin marks on those wheel wells. We'll probably embossing powder or flock the carpet. And then the trunk, I'm not so sure about, as it's kind of an unfinished trunk, even though the kit is designed to have an opening trunk. But they just give you kind of this aftermarket flat floor that goes in there. So that's not gonna work for my car. I didn't have anything in there. It was just a bare floor, so I'll have to try to either glue that trunk shut or try to make that look like a real floor pan. So I wish they did the same markings on the inside so we were all good there. But that's something we'll have to address. And then moving into the interior, again, this being a Super Sport kit, it obviously comes with Super Sport door panels. They're pretty distinct with the Super Sport badge and that big like triangle shape up front. And my car did not have that. Here's the seats. I had a split bench, and this kit comes with buckets in that kind of upholstery pattern. What I have tracked down is these door cards. These are out of the 63 Impala kit. Obviously they're not going to be exact match to mine, but here is kind of a look at what it should be and what these are. They're at least a little bit closer and a little less Super Sport distinctive. And then for the seats, they come from the Revell 62 Impala set. So we've tracked down a split bench seat that is appropriate. And the pattern is, again, kind of close, or at least a lot closer than those Super Sport style seats. So we're going to have to get these all to work in this kit. Again, the door cards, I was hoping this would be a little bit easier being that they're all Revell Impala kits, but they're all designed a little bit different. So how the interior goes is all a little bit different. So we'll have to do some trimming on these door cards to get them to fit down in there. And then the seat needs to be worked out. It's going to be kind of hard to show here, but it kind of sits a little flat. We need it to get it to sit back and down. So I need to try to shave this hump down. That's what this is running into with a flat bottom, without hopefully not going through, but if we do, we'll just have to address it and deal with it and get that seat tucked back down in there at the right angle so that it fits the package tray. And speaking of package tray, that is the next thing we need to address, as the original kit kind of comes with the seat with the package tray, but it's not that big a deal, as I had made a custom package tray in wood shop at the time with this routed out bow tie and added some 6x9s. So that's a project that I need to work on, and maybe ask around for some friendly 3D printers to see if they can whip that up in a 3D print. I would think it'd be fairly easy being a flat piece, but I would like to get that routed indent to fill in and then do the wood grain. If not, we'll do it out of scrap styrene, of course. So I think that pretty much covers the update. We need to smooth out the body, get us a nice clean canvas, address this floor pan, getting those seats fitting in there inside of this body appropriately. I did try out the 62 floor pan to go with these 62 seats, but for whatever reason that kit is like 3 millimeters wide, just super wide compared to this kit. So that's kind of strange that every one of these kind of first gen Impalas are different from Revell. Get track down an intake and carb, get the door panels in there, hopefully work on a package tray, figure out our wheels and tires, our carbon intake, and get our ride height going. And that's where we're at. We'll see you in a few. Alright, getting into some progress and some changes. Maybe not as much as I would have liked this weekend, but we are progressing and moving forward, so that's always a good sign. First up, we'll talk about ride height. I think we are set on ride height. I first tried the stock springs that you seen earlier in the video. It was a little saggy in the back, so I figure we'll have to shim that. But this kit is a lowrider kit that kind of has a shorter spring and a longer spring, so I figured I'd try out the longer springs, see where that put us, and maybe find a happy medium. Put those springs in, and those are almost perfect for us. It's got the full rear wheel exposed, kind of just like my car was, just above the wheel, and that's where we are sitting, so I'm happy with that. Front end looks pretty good with the amount of tire exposed. So I think we're good there, and since we are sitting so good, I think I'm just gonna run with these wheels and tires. The Texas 3D set would have given us a 1 millimeter taller tire, and would probably be a bit more exact for us, but I'm just gonna leave it where we're at since we're sitting where I want to be. We'll talk about the body. We do have the body sanded down, all of that trim removed, the emblems removed. Let me clear this background. Okay, now we can focus. Again, we got the emblems off the rear, off the fender, all of the trim down. We are sanded flat with 320 grit. I'll probably go to 600 before primer. But before we go to primer, we got to add a little bit of kind of rot and rust on this car. So that is my next step with the body. And then as far as a trim, I think I'm going to get through the primer process before I add that trim, so I don't end up losing too much of it. It is some pretty thin styrene that I have, so I think that is the method I'm going to run with. Moving along. The floor pan, we got the trademark off of the bottom, and then we started working on the inside. You can see it's kind of dark. That's how thin and transparent that hump is right now. I did that again for the seat fitment since we were changing the seats. And now if we can get that to show up, we were sitting flush and perfect with that rear wheel wall, and I'm happy with that fitment for the rear seat. And then we also did do some fitment on the front seat. I'm liking how that is squaring up in there, so plug along with that. Next up will be the door cards. We just need to trim basically a little bit off of this to meet up with this hump here. and then we'll be good on those, I think. So that's exciting to know that we're kind of making some good headway on the interior. Again, we'll flock that. The rear, this is something I can started playing with some foil. Again, because the bottom has some work, so I use some aluminum foil to kind of make a template, and I think we may try gluing those in to give us some detail on the inside. Again, these were just kind of rough, just trial pieces to see if it seemed like something that's going to work for us to give us some patterning, and I think it will. Again, we'll have to create our rust, and then we'll glue those kind of in over top. And I think that'll even help out with the rust, having that super thin, maybe having some straggling edges. We still need to work on this. Trying to get this to look a bit more factory. The big gaping hole where they molded our gas tank in. I think will be kind of a foil and styrene work there, but I think we have a plan at least. And then that, I don't know if I showed this, but this kind of our chrome parts out of the stripper. They are nice and clean. We'll have a few different kind of sheens and textures. Like these center pans were more of a polished aluminum and kind of dulled out, where we had bright chrome and aluminum grill, stuff like that, so we can get all the appropriate finishes on those guys. And then I went to order a carburetor from VCG Resins with that little combo pack, and now they're sold out, so we'll either have to wait for those or go another route. But with that, thanks for watching.